Hello, welcome to the RobRyanRed podcast episode. What we are now, 189. Rich is away for his birthday, the cheek, gone to Kos. And you also know that Rich loves a pun on every single pod title. And in typical Rich fashion, he went away because apparently it was his birthday. So I would expect nothing less if you've seen Rich's Instagram. But yes, here I am with EFL editor of Sky Sports, Simeon Gholam. There we go. Simeon is going to talk us through Wrexham a little bit, League One in general, his job, his team and their rise up the ranks and maybe what lessons we can learn from that. But as always, we are brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development.
RobRyanRed.
Right, Simeon, top of the league, Wrexham. Actually, I've said that so nonchalantly that it is a bit silly. Top of the third division. Wrexham have accrued, more points since the start of 2022, 2023 than any other team in top five leagues. Phil Parkinson's drawn up another masterclass, 3-0 win over Shrewsbury. From the outside looking in, how bloody good are Wrexham?
First of all, just want to say pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's a thrill to be here. I mean, I've obviously been watching the rise of Wrexham from outside to in, from a interested viewer whilst you're in the National League, and now from a professional perspective, because obviously I cover the EFL for Sky. I've been in the EFL for very long. It's easy to forget that it's 16 months since you're in the National League. 19 years since you were in League One last time. I mean, we keep talking about it, but you don't feel like a club that's been at that level for that long. It's chaotic. It's strange. It's wild to cover. I've been covering the EFL for about 9 years now, and everything that's been going on with you guys and everything, it doesn't feel like we're covering a third tier club. It's crazy, really. And I mean, as I said, top of the league after 5 games. You played a game more than a lot of others, but it's 4 wins and a draw now, isn't it? And you've just been it's like it's just easy for you, and it shouldn't be this easy. Really.
Obviously, a lot of people are waiting for it to go wrong for Wrexham, and myself and Rich were predicting us to be around 9th or 10th before the season began. But I mean, that might still be the case. But after 5 games, draw away at Bolton, which on paper is one of the toughest games you would say. Shrewsbury, I didn't actually feel like we had to get out of second, maybe third gear if you want to be a little bit generous. I mean, it was so straightforward, and our home form's been so good. I don't know, for a newly promoted team, I mean, Wrexham have had 13 points. I think that's a record since 96-97 when Bury got, I think, that same amount in League One, and they went on to be champions. So if there are any omens there, that is a good one. I don't know where you sort of feel or where you felt Wrexham would be, whether you feel like they're exceeding expectation. I know you said they played a game more, but it's been a near faultless start.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really, as you said, you can't really fault it. It's been really, really, really good. It's been better than I was expecting. Again, you sit back and you try and wait a few games to judge these things. And obviously, we're still so early into the season, but get excited while you can, because you never know how long it's going to last. There's no point not enjoying it now, because you might, as you said, you might be mid-table in November, and then you'll be longing for the halcyon days of mid-September, and wondering why you didn't enjoy it a little bit more then. But you just don't know. Momentum in this league is everything. It feels like quite an open League One this season as well, in terms of there are a few teams that you feel like can really challenge. And I mean, we've seen what Stockport have done, who came up with you as well. There's just no real reason why you can't keep this going as it is, because you've got the squad for it. I mean, you were equipped for this squad-wise last season, really. But so it's just I just don't see why it can't.
Simeon, you filled in for Rich, who's naturally very pessimistic and likes to keep me under, whereas you're feeding me exactly what I want, which is boundless optimism. And I won't actually name the person who said this, but last week I was on, and I think I said 4-1 win over Shrewsbury, and Rich even went 5-0. And I got a direct message off somebody, and they'll listen to this and they'll know exactly who they are. Who said your optimism is crazy. We're going to lose 1-0 now. And we never looked in doubt. I mean, James McLean crossed from the left Ollie Palmer tucks in. Ollie Palmer had a great start to the season, in fairness. We've written about, or Joel, who writes for the website, has written about him this week, how he's proven a bargain, really, since he was a club record buy in 2022, the January of that year. 300k then was the record buy, wasn't it? Goal from Ollie Palmer. And then Ryan Barnett with a brilliant inside run, tees up Elliot Lee on the edge of the box. That's a great low finish, puts us, I mean, that's essentially game over at that point. And then Jack Marriott, with the help of a deflection from a defender and a goalkeeping howler, seals it at 3-0. There's loads of bits I want to pick up on, Ryan Barnett in particular, but I think let's go with Jack Marriott, because he's been one that we were very, very sceptical of. I want to say critical is maybe too strong, but we were very sceptical that, was he going to find his rhythm? We've had issues with strikers in the past. Billy Waters never managed to find his feet, and he's obviously been farmed out on loan to Halifax. But Jack Marriott, you'd have to say, in the absence of Paul Mullin, or in the absence of a fully fit Paul Mullin, has definitely made a decision going into Monday. I mean, Birmingham City, one of the biggest away games in the season, one of the biggest games for Wrexham all season. Jack Marriott over Paul Mullin, is that easy decision for you, hard decision? Where do you land on that one?
It was probably an easier one until before Tuesday night in the old BSM trophy, wasn't it? So now you don't really know where you are. You do feel like Phil Parky will maybe go with the team in the league. It'd be harsh to rotate your team and then not give Marriott the chance in that game and then drop him because of what someone else did in the other game. And I mean, Paul Mullin, one way or another, he's not a bad option to have off the bench at this level, is he? So you can't... I think it'll be Marriott just based on the form he's shown in the league so far, and I think Parky is the kind of guy who will really stick with his guns in that kind of way. But, you never know. But the partnership's working so well. I love Jack Marriott as a player and a person. I've interviewed him. We're going to talk about. But yeah, I think he's just a really talented player who maybe in some ways exists in the wrong era of football, and I think this is why he fits your squad well, because I've seen him a lot be played as a lone striker or out wide in a 3, and it doesn't really suit him. He's what he is at you guys. He's a little man in a 2 up top, and with being foiled by Ollie Palmer as well, it's just perfect for him. So I thought this environment would be the perfect one for him. Obviously, he's had the fortune of Paul Mullin's misfortune of being injured, so he's had the chance to really establish himself. But I don't really see how he can be dropped at the moment. Cue him now being dropped on Monday night because I'm wrong about everything. But for me, I don't really see how he can at the moment, the way he's been playing in the league.
That's usually how it goes on these podcasts. We release every Thursday, Simeon, and almost the biggest story of the week will drop on a Thursday. So that's normally how it goes. We spend all week waiting for news. We release the podcast, and then something huge happens on the Thursday. Yeah. So no doubt, both of us saying Jack Marriott's got to play. It means he's going to have the kiss of death now for Monday. But you have interviewed him recently, and we did share that on our socials as well. One of the things Parky mentioned, I think it's obvious now, you can just see it in the game, he's more relaxed. Living up here now, maybe a shorter commute to training, just more time to spend with the lads, whether that is just grabbing a coffee or going out for lunch or whatever it is. That's obviously beneficial. How did you find him just as a person, as a talker, when you got to speak to him?
Oh, he was great. We talked for... The frustrating thing about his interviews sometimes is you generally talk for a lot longer than what we can release, because obviously no one has an attention span anymore, so all the clips we release are about 90 seconds long. And even then people are a bit like, 90 seconds, can I commit to that? But, I was talking to him over Zoom for about 15 or 20 minutes, and he was just in his house. We were having a chat about his family, where he was, where he was set up. I will release a few more of these on my socials as well and that kind of thing over the next few weeks and months or so, and a few more will be going out on Sky, so keep an eye out for those. But yeah, he's such a great lad, and we did talk about him moving up to Wrexham and what a big difference that did make to him, because I think it is something, as fans who occasionally forget that footballers are people, we do often forget about the off-field impact for players in their on-field performances in a lot of ways. And I think his last couple of moves, he mentioned he's been away from his family and away from his kid, and it just hasn't been easy for him. But now he does seem really established and settled, and he did say one of the reasons why the Wrexham move was right for him, from any number of reasons, was because he could do it with his family. They could all be in the same place. And I think that being settled is really, really making a difference to his game. And you can see he just looks happier, and he's one of those players that when he's happier off the pitch, it just makes all the difference on the pitch as well.
I'm not necessarily a subscriber to this idea that, when players are in contract years, they flick the switch, turn it on, and suddenly, become, an Erling Haaland or a Kylian Mbappe. But there's no denying that when players do enter contract years, it is do or die time, especially if they want to stay where they are, or if they want to, go on and impress and stay at the level and get a move elsewhere. You've got Ollie Palmer and Jack Marriott, both in contract years, both out of contract at the end of the season. I mean, before the season began, I'd have come on here to chat to you, Simeon, and I'd have thought both of those could be done. Do you think in the early stages they've shown that actually they might have more in the tank than just this season?
I mean, especially for Ollie Palmer, he was one where you'd maybe look at him and think he's been there since nearly the start of the journey, hasn't he? And you would have thought that this could maybe be his level where he's maybe moved aside a little bit. And you could say perhaps it is that he is playing well, but maybe he could also just really want to stay for other reasons. Like, it's been good for business, isn't it? For Ollie.
Right, no, right. No,
and
no,
it's been
denying
good for
it,
everything. And it's just like, Wrexham's a different kettle of fish to anything we've really experienced in the EFL so far, ever really, in terms of the exposure for the club, what the opportunities it can bring, being a player for the club, that kind of thing. So that can have as much to do with it as the contract as well, and just loving life and wanting to stay as a part of it for as long as possible. You don't know. But sometimes just being at a higher level can, in a weird way, make things easier for certain strikers, because they are given, more teams do try to play more football, play in a different way. The defenders are different types of defenders in League 1 to League 2, and it can potentially give you a bit more space, a bit more opportunity to do the kinds of things you want to do. It's not always necessarily a linear thing of he'll score 10 goals in League 1, so he'll score 15 in League 2. It can work in different ways. Football can be a strange thing sometimes.
Well, before I've got two other players that I wanted to pick out from the Shrewsbury game, but quickly, because you did mention Paul Mullin, and we're both in agreement that we would probably start Marriott and Palmer again at Birmingham. What are your thoughts then on on the Welsh pool, the Deadpool mask celebration? Are you all for these extravagant celebrations? I mean, I liked it, but some people did not. So, what are your thoughts, Simeon?
There are going to be people that don't like anything. I'm all for anything I think football is meant to be fun. Football can be serious business as well, but I do think that in the modern, especially if you spend a lot of time on social media, you can lose a lot of fun and enjoyment and joy out of the game. And I think anything that brings a bit of that and brings a smile to a face, or just brings a bit of levity to a situation when things can be so media managed these days. And I know it is a bit of PR, it's a bit of publicity, but it's a laugh, isn't it? And I mean, if you're really that miserable about something like that, then I worry for you, to be honest.
What was your go-to celebration? Because for me, when I was a player, I mean, I didn't score that many goals, and I was never going to be one that could pull off a knee slide effectively. So I was never going to be able to do that on the field of the school pitches. Did you have any sort of celebration when you were playing, or no Deadpool masks, I assume?
No, I wouldn't have kept anything down there to whip out and put on my face or anything. No, I probably would have just gone Alan Shearer if I'd scored that many goals. But it was very, very. I was a lumbering centre back who was very average with my head, so goals were few and far between for me. So it was never really anything I had to worry about very much. And now I'm a 34-year-old man. I don't get down and play as much as I'd like to. But yeah, it was very much an old school Shearer celebration for me. If I got
there'll be people older than 34 that'll be absolutely fuming with how old you made 34 sound there, no doubt. Right, let's rattle off.
I'm an old 34 when it comes to
an old 34. Rich will be shaking his head, just turning 30. But two more players then. That one in particular, I think, has been one of the standout players in League One of any team, which is Ryan Barnett, and Ollie Rathbone, who I've seen get rave reviews. I was actually a little bit underwhelmed with what I saw against Shrewsbury, and I'll explain why. But we start with the positive, which was Ryan Barnett. Never really been settled at this level. Had a few games in league football, came to us after being at Solihull. And he was another one that after League Two, there were question marks saying, will he be able to cut it? The question was asked about Jacob Mendy. Will he be able to cut it, having never really had experience? What about Ryan Barnett? And you have to say, Ryan Barnett, again, great run, as I said, inside. And then, manages to split the defence, split the midfield, break into the gap and tee up Elliot Lee, and it's a really good finish, but an even better run. Ryan Barnett has been fabulous, hasn't he?
I mean, sometimes things just click, and sometimes things just go. Again, it's not always. It doesn't always make total sense. It's not always progression's not always linear, and sometimes it can just be about finding the right club at the right time, or being in the right league at the right time, or maybe they've changed the way they've trained over the summer, or they've been working on different things. But for both, again, it's just they've taken the game up another level in the last few, definitely, especially Barnett. It's been really, really impressive to see.
Yeah, because you kind of want to at least have the idea for as long as you can that you can get a player that goes all the way through with you. Now, I don't want to get carried away because Wrexham might not win promotion this year, and even if they do, that could be wholesale changes, and then the step after that is absolutely enormous and huge. But with someone like Barnett, it's almost he's not been tested at he hasn't been tested at championship level, so we don't know what he would look like in a championship team in the championship. Max Cleworth, we think, is somebody that is worth millions now at the level he's playing. How good will he be? How long can we keep him? Arthur Okonkwo, we believe, could go right to the very top. That's why we gave him a long-term contract. But there's almost something quite exciting about Barnett in that he's really raw, he's really skillful, really talented, and he's pacey. And I think, we've had Anthony Ford, Luke Bolton, Seb Revan, Ryan Barnett, all of which can play at right wing back. And it's credit to Ryan Barnett, really, that he's really solidified that position. And to go up against his former team, where I'm sure he didn't leave with sort of any ill will or anything like that, but he left knowing that they didn't feel he was good enough at the time to play league football. He's gone away, done the hard yards at Solihull, come all the way back up, and he's gone past his old team, and I'm sure he's not one for vengeance, but I am, so I would find that very, very sweet indeed, because I don't know. I mean, your team, Simeon, if we drop the exclusive, is Brighton, and you have managed to go right the way up. How do you see it? Because there are players that can do it.
Yeah, I mean, our rise was League One to Premier League, so it wasn't, and it took us about 6 or 7 years. We laboured in the Championship for a little bit and kept losing in the playoffs and that kind of thing. So it wasn't. There were one or two that came all the way through of us to the Premier League. But I'm off the top of my head. I think we ended up back with Glenn Murray, who was our striker in League One, but he left, and then, well, I say famously, it's famous if you're in that part of the world, left us for our biggest rivals, Palace, and then ended up back at us, and we all hated him, and then we all loved him again because he started scoring goals. But yeah, it's I mean, a good example would be Paddy Ruddock at Luton Town, who obviously did do all the levels, but then they went up over a longer period of time, whereas your rise has been more extreme. So if you do keep going, and I mean, every chance for getting out of the Championship again would be a different kettle of fish. We're getting very far ahead of ourselves with 5 games into League One. But I mean, there is with the speed of the rise, there is far more of a chance of it happening, because there's only so much you kind of turn over and recycle your squad and kind of get to that level. And Barnett is the one who, again, he's raw. We don't know a huge amount about him at this level because it's his first time really establishing himself here. So you never know. You never know what players. There are players playing in, I've watched as a fan and as a journalist in League One, League Two, and a few years later you turn around and they're playing in the Premier League and you're like, how the hell did that happen? Like, I remember watching, when I was a Brighton fan in 2010, watching Chris Wood, and I was just like, God, it was like almost like his first touch almost became like a running joke. And then he spent 5-6 years scoring goals in the Premier League. So you just don't know how these things can transpire sometimes. I don't pretend to be a scout, and I'm not I'm a vibes man in a lot of ways rather than an intricate man. So it's like it's not always easy for me to tell in that way. Yeah,
that's what we love. Immaculate vibes. Well, look, I'm going to quickly explain my nervousness around Ollie Rathbone slightly. Andy Cannon's been absolutely fabulous. He missed the game through injury at the weekend. Was there and in good spirits with the lads, but wasn't going to be risked. And also just on the injury front heading into Monday, George Dobson's been dealing with a dead leg. I mean, that's not going to keep him out of Monday. We know that. He's been absolutely fabulous. Elliot Lee's just having a checkup, but again, nothing too serious there. And James McLean obviously got the night off on Tuesday, which is rare. He doesn't get many games off after having an injection to play against Shrewsbury. So niggles already creeping in, and that's why you've got a big squad to make sure you can combat certain problems. Ollie Rathbone, I saw some people, talking like 9 out of 10, had a fabulous game, and others maybe thought he was a little bit underwhelming. I just think there's a lot of players there, Simeon, who have worked with us since the National League days, 7 or 8 that have been with us since the National League, and they know exactly how the system works, the role they play, and it is a lot about roles. Tom O'Connor plays that left centre-back role brilliantly. Max Cleworth and Ryan Barnett have a great partnership. I say this almost every week, got a great partnership there. James McLean seems to have really adapted to that left wing-back role really well. Elliot Lee, Andy Cannon, and now Dobson, or before that was George Evans, have really know the role in the midfield. I just think with Rathbone right now, he did a lot of running, and that's, fans love that if you're giving it 100% energy. He looked quite tired, I thought, in spells, but I'm still not sure what he is, and I don't think he knows what he is yet in this Phil Parkinson system. He's played in attack in that Carabao Cup game against Sheffield United, played up there again against Bolton when he came on. Sometimes with new signings, and we saw this as well in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy, so there's quite a lot of criticism for Mo Fowl, Dan Scar. It can take a bit of time, can't it? Especially if you're not playing regularly and you're coming in maybe for fits and starts. Patience is key, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, patience isn't something that really exists anymore in football.
No.
Sadly, it's everything's very knee-jerk reaction. I've been guilty of that sometimes as well myself. I do agree. It can, when you have such a cohesive system that's been developed and honed in such a way with such a relatively key core of players over sort of 18 months or so. Then when new players do come in and they don't immediately kind of smash the ground running, and it's hard when you're not a striker scoring goals or a winger putting in assists, that kind of thing. If it's harder to make it clear what you're doing and what you're contributing, then you can end up getting in for a bit more criticism than you maybe deserve. But as you said, it is just about giving these players time to learn. It's easier in a way coming into a team that's struggling. It's sometimes harder to come into a team that's been very successful, because if you're not very obviously adding something, then people are going to question what you are adding. And I remember talking to Jack Murray about this, to plug my own interview again. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. He was talking about, and I was talking to him about, often when a striker moves in January, it's because a team needs goals. It's because a team is looking for something. It's because a team is looking to dig their way out of something. Whereas Wrexham were absolutely flying. They had a goal scorer in Paul Mullin, who was just in an unbelievable, especially in the second half season, an unbelievable streak of form. And then you're looking at Jack Murray and you're being like, what is he contributing? Not a lot, because there's not much he can contribute at that point. But you've got to remember, it is a long season. You can't, so many games, you can't just rely on one tight core group of players, and you do have to improve and adapt and evolve and move on. And even if it doesn't seem obvious that that's happening straight away, you have to trust that the people in charge who've taken you so far do have a plan for these players who are going to take you to the next level. And sometimes it is a player who, as you've said, these players who you weren't sure about, who now suddenly in League One seem to be smashing it, could then, these are the next load of players who could be the ones to do that. You could be in the Championship next season and Ollie Rathbone is your best player, and you'll be like, oh, what were you worried about? You don't know. So you just, sometimes you've just got, it's so easy to just be a Twitter tactico, and yeah, sometimes you just got to be like, maybe the people in charge of making decisions do know what they're doing, have planned their recruitment. Sometimes they're planning recruitment steps a little bit further ahead than you are in your head whilst you're just thinking about Birmingham on Monday night, for example, and they've got those building blocks in place to keep the club going. Because when you're rising as quickly as you guys are, you do need to think further ahead than just the next window, the next thing, because it's just, things are just happening too quickly.
Right, Simeon, top of the league. That is the headline of the week. Obviously, we're going to get into a Birmingham preview shortly and tease an interview you're doing when this is out, or it'll be out soon after this is out. But one of the big talking points that I'm sure Rich would love to get into as well, but we can't ignore it over the week, the iFollow streaming service. Now, that is no longer a factor for UK audiences, not since the Sky Sports Plus deal, and the Shrewsbury game has been on Sky Sports Plus, the Bristol Street Motors game has been on Sky Sports Plus, and the Birmingham City game, Monday Night Football, on Sky. So in the UK, a lot of it now is on Sky, and that is a big push as part of Sky Sports EFL offering. Great, and I've had no issues whenever, if I've not been able to go, I've been able to watch that. But internationals, before the season started, they haven't got the option of Sky Sports Plus, and they also didn't know at that point about Paramount Plus and CBS, and all that came out a bit later. So people paid their subscriptions, and as you can imagine, in the EFL, Wrexham are the most popular, or at least one of the very most popular teams, and have got loads and loads of subscriptions. And as a result, all you would want, at the very, very least, is to see that stream appear, run faultlessly, commentary working, and jobs are good, and you move on, and win or lose, the stream was fine. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, please do, and please follow Simeon again. Why not? Because he's here for the week. But I'm going to show you now some of the issues that we saw that actually caught the attention of Rob McElhenney as well. And we'll read you what he said. So you can see here that Christina put, does this look like it's worth $230 to you? Now, don't think your screen is cracking up here. It's very much what Christina was seeing in that first half. Caught the attention of a certain Rob McElhenney, who put, no, it does not. Not sure why it's worse than the last 2 years, which is definitely obvious. I think iFollow's been pretty good, bar one or two issues. And match highlights, there we go as well. And Rob McElhenney says he is asking all the same questions. Now, if we look at this one, can we see this screen as well? Am I seeing? Here we go. It's testing my... Oh, yeah, we're still on Christina's screen then. Let me try share this tab as well. Moody Marty, who we met in Canada, if anyone watched the Canadian vlogs, iFollow is absolutely shite, to use Marty's word. Again, that is just not a good viewing experience for people. I mean, Marty paid 320 Canadian dollars, I think, for the season pass. I think this one might have even been, you might have even bought this one as an extra. Again, not great. And this was at the weekend. So at the weekend, iFollow was so bad. I mean, people couldn't get on it either at all, or they didn't get any video until I think it was about the hour mark. Clearly, Wrexham had to put out a response. Now, I would stress that iFollow is a league issue. It's not the responsibility of the clubs, and I know other clubs have had issues, but as I said, Wrexham are very well followed internationally, and so it's gathering more headlines. A Wrexham statement said, the club has been in communication with the EFL over the past weekend following the widely reported issues with iFollow on Saturday. Anyone who has already reached out to the customer service team should have already had their refund processed. I think people were getting about $4, $5 maybe back, which is hardly much given every game's been disrupted by audio or visual issues. Supporters who bought a match pass should receive refunds, while pro rata refunds will be given to supporters with season monthly video passes. All refunds should be complete within the next 24 hours. However, the club has been advised that should supporters not receive their refunds within this time frame, they should contact iFollow. You can see lots of comments, and I genuinely hope they get this sorted, but it's hard to be confident at this point. They fixed one bug only to have an even worse streaming experience during a game that has no fallback stream like Paramount Plus. Again, this was the game on Tuesday night. I mean, that is just dreadful, unfortunately. What else we got on here? As a great man once said, I have a dream that one day every game should be streamed without glitch. Gareth seeing the funny side. There's Sherry, who we know followed on the tour. Let's say the video feed is fixed. Now fix the audio that keeps dropping out. The whole season so far has been a complete shambles. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. But yeah, I know, like, Simeon, I won't drag you into this whole iFollow debate because I know you're not following every cough and spit like us. But I would say that I really, really hope that, I know the club listen to this, and I know I'm sure they are working really, really hard, but this needs to get sorted because it's turning into I don't follow rather than I follow. It's an I don't follow for these international fans. And when there isn't a fallback, look, Monday night, there'll be a fallback option. I'm sure it'll be on CBS or Paramount. Tom Brady might even turn up. Rob McElhenney might even turn up. Who knows what it'll be, but it'll be a huge, one of the biggest games of the season so far at any level, no doubt. But it can't go on like this because they're very quick to take the money for the subscription, as often these things are. You're very quick to give over your $200, $300. And like I say, all you want is, no one's asking for a refund if Wrexham lose. All you want is just to be able to see if they win or lose without sort of... it's like I took my glasses off and I had sort of brain freeze and my head was spinning, which sometimes can happen to me if I lose my glasses. But yeah, that's really problematic. And I guess you work for Sky, Simeon, so why not get a little jab at iFollow and a boost in Sky Sports Plus? I mean, what have you made of this sort of concerted effort to show more EFL football? Because it's loads and loads of games and loads more coverage than ever before.
I mean, I've certainly had less sleep than I used to in the last couple of months.
Oh, you look great, mate. You look
I
absolutely fine, mate. Yeah, don't look.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm actually 19 years old. This has happened in the last 2 months. No, it's I think it's great. Anything which I mean, as I've said, the team I support is no longer in the EFL, but they were in the EFL for most of my childhood and life, and I never suspected that they'd be anywhere else, to be honest, other than maybe lower than the EFL or extinct. So, but I've always been a massive EFL advocate. Even the first games I used to go to because I grew up in West London, I used to go to Brentford games, QPR games, and that kind of thing. And I love the EFL. Anything that brings more attention to the EFL is a good thing in my book, whether it's what's happening with you guys or if it's Sky putting more money into it and showing more games. I think it's just the more publicity, the more coverage of what a brilliant product and what a brilliant thing it is, I think is great. And as you said with the iFollow stuff, which I'm not going to comment on too much for obvious reasons, but if you're going to try and market yourself as an international league and an international club, then you've got to offer an international product. And one of the reasons why the Premier League is so popular around the world is because they offer a brilliant product, and you have to put the product and the customers first in that way, and the fans first, I should say, because otherwise you're going to lose people before you've really, really got them tied down. And it's not good enough, frankly, and it reflects badly on the whole industry, to be honest, and it's not good for anyone. So I do really hope they sort it out as soon as possible. I do wonder the reasons for it, because obviously it's not a service that exists in the UK anymore. And there were a few teething problems at the start with Sky Sports Plus. I think they're mostly resolved, and it is pretty decent. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who works for Sky. I think it's been.
Yeah, I mean, Simeon, I've used it on the app, on TV. It's worked fine for me. Now, that's a very selfish thing. The world does revolve outside of my phone and TV habits, surprisingly. But it's worked fine.
Don't
for
let
me.
anyone ever tell you that, mate.
No, I'm not going to. But I would say that, in all seriousness, I totally echo what you say, because that's the worry for me. Lastly, before we move on to Birmingham, but lastly for me, if you're just getting into Wrexham now, maybe you've watched the documentary, you decide you want to watch, you see that iFollow pass and go, that'll do it. I buy that once and I get every game, and then you see that as the first game. That might turn you away. That might put you off, especially if it's not your main sport. You know, NFL season is back now, and I watched that package and Red Zone, and it's so slick, and nothing's perfect in this world. But don't get me wrong, but they get to resolutions quickly, and you know, we are 5 games into the season now. There's been issues almost every single week. You get into the biggest game of potentially what could be the biggest doubleheader of the season, which is Birmingham and Wrexham. Just in terms of eyeballs on it, in terms of interest, media interest, you and I both know that the build up to that in the coming days is just going to get, you know, even more elevated. It's a huge game, so it needs fixing quickly. I'll say that as a final point.
100%, because we want more attention on the EFL. We want more eyeballs in the EFL, and obviously, unless you're able to buy a plane ticket and move to the UK and get a Sky subscription, this is the best you're going to have, and it needs to get better, and it needs to get better quickly, because it's not good enough. RobRyanRed.
Right, before we get into our Birmingham preview, I'll ask you a little bit about the contrast in styles. Earlier in the week, I spoke to Birmingham fan Will Brazier, and this is what he had to tell me about meeting who he called Mafia boss Phil Parkinson, and what he thinks of Birmingham's ownership. Right, the big game then, Monday night on the telly. Now, I'm thinking that I know I'm going to be there, and that is exciting for everyone in the away end. But I do think maybe Rob McElhenney and Tom Brady might make an appearance. Their tweet was a little bit cryptic, but I thought, you know, we've heard a lot we've spoken about how Tom Brady's ruining football on this podcast before, and how Birmingham are screwing up League One. But I thought I'd get Will on, presenter, podcaster. Very, very good. And also a big Birmingham City fan. So, Will, firstly, how excited are you for Birmingham Wrexham? Big game.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought it? League One, people speaking about Monday Night Football, Birmingham versus Wrexham, like probably being the talk of the town that day. I like it when we've got eyes on us, and I don't like it when we've got eyes on us as well, because I'm sure you're definitely the same with Wrexham. You get a lot of people speaking like they know a lot about your club when actually they know very little. So, especially with all the stuff that's been going on, which I'm sure we'll get into, there's been a lot of people speaking about us, but maybe just do a bit more research and find out about us.
Oh, well, before we get into Birmingham specifically, if you haven't already, Will has actually done a video on That's Football YouTube channel, which I'll link, but it's a very fun video with Elliot Lee and Ollie Palmer, who we know absolutely loves the camera. So that is worth a watch. Will, firstly, what did you think of those two? I mean, they're both great blokes, and one particular, very, very camera friendly.
Palmer, great. Yeah, Elliot Lee, the most bubbly. I was going to say little chap, but that sounds very demeaning. That's probably because I'm so lanky. But he's so nice and really, really lovely. However, that day there was a miscommunication. We always send a brief when we go to these things, and for whatever reason, there was a miscommunication, and Phil Parkinson hadn't read the brief that day.
Good.
And he saw we were doing this volley challenge, and on his brief it said acrobatic volleys, I should say. And he wasn't impressed, and I've never been so scared in all my life. He walked out like a mafia boss. I'm not even joking. And me, Elliot Lee, and Ollie Palmer were stood there like little kids. And you're allowed to swear on this podcast?
If you want, mate, if you want.
I was shitting myself. So the producer was like, we do this, it's fine, like, just calm it down. And I thought he was going to go, and he just stood there for about 3 of the challenges, like arms folded, looking at me like I was an absolute piece of dirt. And obviously the challenge relies on me sort of interacting with the players. And they said it. I absolutely shit it. I was just like, sorry.
You're scared. Your voice is cracking. Phil Parkin's a mafia boss, mafioso. Go on then. Let's talk a bit about Birmingham, because I think from afar, and I've been lucky enough in the day job to have covered Birmingham. I got to see one of the Wayne Rooney games when you played against Ipswich. I know, hallowed stuff. But, if we look back to getting to this point, you've had the sale of Jude Bellingham was absolutely huge at that point. A lot of people ask us as well about Knighthead Capital. I know we know about Brady as kind of one of the figureheads, but maybe to this point now where we are, the owners you've got now, how important are they to getting Birmingham back to the top?
I think financially, like, it goes without saying, but just in terms of, like, I find to do it myself in the way I support the club, just this wave of positivity that's come through. I've never been or seen a relegation where I was in the stadium against, we played Norwich on the last day, and it was like this wave of disappointment with almost like a bit of a shrug of the shoulders, because the stuff that they brought in, from the infrastructure to just honestly everything from top to bottom that they've done in such a short space of time is absolutely unbelievable. And I think as fans, we're just so thankful for that. But now it's sort of like the proof's got to be in the pudding going forward. But they're absolutely fantastic. Like, their pedigree is turning failing businesses into successful ones. And Birmingham City was but pretty much like yourself, probably. Like, I've just seen in terms of like the way that the guys chose Wrexham because of the fan base and what was possible. I feel it's probably similar, maybe at a slightly different level in terms of Birmingham City, just because of the size of the club, where we were going, how misrun it was, and just the opportunity there, which when you're a fan, you can't see through the thick and thin of it. Oh, you're there through the thick and thin of it, you just can't see, can you?
Well, I mean, if we're looking at the opening few games, speaking to some Birmingham fans, other podcasters, lots of nerves, I think, around that Reading game, and Reading weren't scared at all of Birmingham, and probably with a better team on the day. Alfie May scores a late equaliser, it's one each. You've then gone and beaten Wycombe, you've beaten Leyton Orient, there'll be another result in there I'm forgetting. But what are the early impressions, do you think? Because there's a lot of pressure that basically the expectation is you guys have spent north of 20 million, 25 million. You're expected to win the league, never mind top two.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the expectation, like coming down from, like, I can't tell you of, like, you probably had it when you're in the National League, but like 13, 14 seasons of absolute objectivity or relegation, like, just, oh God, here we go again. And then you come down, the money spent, and then I think when we drew Reading, there was a guy part of like a Reading fan site, and he'd done like a 12 thread tweet on Twitter about like how they broke down Birmingham, the wage expend, and all of a sudden, like, we're Man City, and I'm like, well, where's this happened? Like, I understand it. I'd be the same if I was in the other camp, but like having 74% possession, I've never seen that in my lifetime as a Birmingham City fan. So there's just passing out from the back. There's just all these things to get used to as Birmingham City fans, which is it's a very nice problem to have. And I always thought the start of the season was going to be probably more rocky than it was. I think to get that point against Reading was good, but just like, it's a new manager, it's basically a new team, it's a new style of play, and that takes time. I've played enough football managers to know that takes about 3 months to get into. So I'm pleasantly surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's it's a huge game. You could argue in with outside of playoffs, it's one of the biggest games in League One history, with the attention that'll be, like you say, Monday Night Football. Couple of players. Firstly, I was thinking about the time I went to Birmingham, as I mentioned, when I think it was a 2-2 draw against Ipswich. I think Ipswich got away with it then. McKenna's Ipswich, Marcus Harness scored twice. And I remember speaking to one of the stewards outside, and he said he'd given up his season ticket since the Zola days. And you think, so for you growing up, I mean, like you mentioned, it's been abject for years and years. Rubbish owners, some terrible managerial choices. I mean, what are your kind of memories just growing up following Birmingham?
So I saw, early times it was in the Championship, and then we had probably like a decade of in and out of the Premier League, which was sort of absolutely fantastic. Like, just due to work, I've only really had a season ticket for a couple of years, and most of those were in the Premier League when I was like a teenager. So those are like absolute, seeing Ronaldo and Rooney coming down. And then I think 2011 we got relegated, and it's like, everyone feels that their team's hard done by, but I do feel like Birmingham are going to Birmingham. So like the year we got relegated, we won the Carling Cup, so we had a Europa League campaign in the Championship, nearly got into the playoffs that season. But then since that year, it's just been. And the irony is, like, we've had last day relegations under ownerships where, like, still to this day, probably don't really know who owned the football club properly, and then we get these fantastic owners in, and then we end up getting relegated. So I think it's just trying to be positive, which we are definitely. So it's just
It's hard to be though after years of mismanagement. It's hard to be positive. It's hard to flip the switch. But one thing you can be positive about, I saw on your Twitter and basically any Birmingham fan, I had to mute the word in the end, Stansfield, because you did end up getting Jay Stansfield from Fulham. Ironically, he'd scored against Birmingham a few days before, in the Carling Cup, whatever it is now, the Carrow Cup.
Yeah.
And so that must have been slightly strange, given the deal would have been going on in the background. Huge deal. It's reported that that's about 15 million plus then the potential for add-ons if Birmingham get to where they want to get to the next few years, Premier League probably, for those add-ons. How big a move is that? Because it's not only the record, it's the record by about 1 billion miles in League One. It's such a huge move, that.
Yeah, it is. Basically, they're very good, the owners, and Gary Cook. We've been having these open houses, and it's open by name and open by nature. They're very good at breaking down the finances and the structure. And I think in the last one, or the one before the last one, they basically broke down that we were making the most revenue outside of the clubs with the parachute payments inside the Championship, and that's a lot of money. And I'm not saying like that we can spend this every transfer window, but they very much wanted to put a marker down. With Jay Stansfield specifically, he's a young striker who's only going to get better, and I don't see his sort of, and football's football, isn't it? Unless something easy for me to say, something really bad happens, I don't see.
If anything catastrophic happens, there you go. Yeah,
it's out of my head. I can't even think of it. Unless something really bad happens to him, like, I don't really see his value changing. So if it was another season in League One, or too many seasons in the Championship, you've still got a really young English striker to sell, and I don't see him losing his value. So that's the risk aversion to me. It's just obviously, League One, that sort of money, I'd be in exactly the same boat. Like, what are these chances doing? But there's method to the madness with these guys.
Definitely so. What I was going to say is, what's been your opinion on the Wrexham story? Because like you say, you mentioned at the beginning about a lot of people say things and write things without really getting into the nuts and bolts of things. Anytime I put a video up on the platform, the great platform that is TikTok, I just get lots of pound signs, and well, that's what you get if you buy the league. And kind of Wrexham have spent 1.4 million compared to you lot, and Peterborough spent more than us. So from the outside looking in, obviously you've also been inside and been watched by the mafia boss that is Phil Parkinson. But what have you made of the general Wrexham story?
I think, like, me and Mark have gone back and forth on it on the podcast, but like, I really do think it's a fairy tale story, just because of like the nature of who's bought you and what they've done, and in terms of like not just the level of investment in terms of money, but like the level of investment of seeing the documentary and seeing when I went down to Wrexham, I spent like a few days there, but just speaking to the locals about how it's impacted the local community. So like that is just, that's generation, isn't it? For like the things that are happening now are just going to change the fortunes of the town going forward. So like, I really, really want to hate Wrexham this season, but like, I haven't just watched the third season of the documentary, and just maybe I'm scared of Phil Parkinson more than Wrexham themselves. But I just think, what a great thing to happen. Like, if you're like, if that, we've got I still can't believe I go on Tom Brady's profile and he's in a blue shirt. Like, that must be AI.
Yeah, when that time he went in the pub and was buying everyone a drink just looked
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I guess lastly then, because look, the game on Monday, my prediction is you're going to have lots of the ball because you have in every game this season under Chris Davis. We haven't had a lot of the ball in any of our games, and that suits us. We like playing out of possession, so it'll be a really interesting chess match that. And the atmosphere. I hear so much about the atmosphere of St Andrews under the lights. There's nothing like it here, and the limbs. I can't remember when Willem Williamson scored the last second or whenever that was against. Who was that against now? If you remind me, I can't even remember.
Wigan the other week.
Wigan, and I hear so much about that. So I'm looking forward to that. But the question we get asked a lot, getting back to League One after 19, 20 years. A lot of people say it's League One's Wrexham's spiritual home, and if we go above that, amazing. But that's really League One is where we think we should be at the very base level. This isn't arrogant if you do say it, but is the Premier League where you think Birmingham can really sort of get and solidify under this ownership now? That's
Yeah,
gotta be the plan,
100%.
surely.
Yeah, 100%. I think it was their pre-ownership. It's just everything was done badly, from players to stadium to everything to infrastructure. Now we've got that. I mean, it's just the irony of getting relegated down to League One. But hopefully that's the ultimate reset for us, and we have got the team to sort of progress through the leagues. I walked out the stadium when we lost to Norwich and went down on the last day of the Championship. Big screen, you're seeing Kieran McKenna back-to-back promotion. So that is the dream, but dreams can get crushed, and as football fans we know so well that can happen. So I think there's just this sense of being a Birmingham fan that I still can't believe how positive it is. So I need to be positive, and we will be in the Premier League, but don't ask me how long.
So there you go. Will was very scared when he went to College Park to to film a video for That's Football. He described Phil Parkinson as a mafia boss. You are speaking to Phil Parkinson. Can promise you he's not as scary as Will was making him out to be. I don't think he is a part of the mafioso. But Birmingham Monday night then. Come on, Tom. I know it'll be billed as Tom Brady versus Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. But actually, one of the most intriguing elements for me is, and it'll be 30 million versus Hollywood Reds or whatever. Birmingham are a team that love to have the ball. Under Chris Davis, they're having 65, 70, 75% possession. Wrexham, and I think it's by style, by design, are operating without much of the ball. Typically operating in the 30s, maybe low 40s. I mean, at the weekend, that wasn't going to be possible because Shrewsbury were rubbish and are pretty rubbish. And I think my relegation prediction for them is pretty apt right now. But Wrexham very comfortable out of possession. I even think you saw that in the Bristol Street Motors game against Salford. We were very happy to let them have the ball and see what we could do off it. Birmingham are going to have lots of it. We're going to have not a lot of it. Now on Wednesday when we record, Simeon, how do you see the game playing out?
I mean, it sounds a lot like Birmingham going to have a lot of the ball and Wrexham aren't.
Yeah.
To put it simply, I mean, but again, it's one of those things where I know it's something in the last few games that a lot of fans have used as a stick to beat you with. It's been referred to as like hoofball and that kind of thing. Where I don't really agree. I think there are lots and lots of ways to play the game, and one of the joys of the EFL, especially the lower leagues of the EFL, is the fact that there are teams still trying to play in different styles, and contrast is everything, because that's what football's about. There's a million different ways to play the game, and who wants to see two teams just try and ticky-tackle each other off the pitch or anything? It's not. So when are two teams genuinely with a fascinating clash of styles, it's what you want to see, because there's two teams trying to play to their strengths in very different ways, and it should lead to a fascinating tactical battle in a lot of ways, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, look, we could see Jay Stansfield, 15.5 million guaranteed, plus probably an extra 5 million in add-ons. Was obviously with Birmingham in the EFL last season when they went down. We've heard a lot about him, and I've, through the day job, I've at least been to see him live and see him play. What do you make of that as a signing for League One? And what do you make of a League One team spending that sort of money? Because are we getting to a point where the fees are just going to get so exorbitant now for the top three divisions that it's going to get harder and harder to actually compete? Or is this just a freak anomaly?
I do think it is to an extent a freak anomaly. I mean, the rules for financial stuff are a bit looser in League 1 and 2, so I think that is why they are doing it. I think owners can put a bit more of their own money in. I do think this is a bit of an anomaly. It is. They've done it. I'm not going to criticise what Birmingham have done, but they came in and managed to get them relegated in the first season. They were in the Championship. So I think part of this is just, it's almost like a proving the owners are trying to prove how committed they are to the club, and it's almost like a gift to the fans. It's like a statement signing rather than something. I mean, they've spent a lot of money regardless this summer, but I can't see a situation where these kind of fees are going to go around regularly. I do think this is a bit of an anomaly in terms of just the deal, and obviously Stansfield. I feel it is just a move to really, really get the fans on side and get them grinding and moving and proving. Kind of, it's a statement basically from the owners there.
There's so many exciting players though on Monday. That Alfie May, obviously brilliant player last season for Charlton. Strangely, I'm still very confused. Nathan Jones deciding to cast him aside, and I know Charlton have had an okay start, but I think you'd probably be better with Alfie May in there. But hey, that's just me. Mark Leonard, who I was very high on. I know, speaking to some Birmingham fans, he's maybe had a little bit of a slower start. Willemsen scores that last minute winner against Wigan, was it, in the limbs in the home end there at St Andrews. Stansfield and others. And then on the Wrexham side, you've got Elliot Lee, you've got, as I mentioned, Ryan Barnett, you've got potentially Paul Mullen, you've got Jack Marriott. I mean, Birmingham fans seem to be looking at it as Wrexham are very much legit. I know everyone's thinking Birmingham have got to win the league. That's the bare minimum given the money they've spent. But from a Wrexham perspective, you're unbeaten. I know you're going to lose at some point. That's inevitable, unless we can somehow be the League One Invincibles. But I don't think anyone's expecting that. For Wrexham, do you think this is a real marker that if they go to Birmingham and get a result, that only further solidifies that Wrexham very much are legit in this promotion battle?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive test. I mean, however well Wrexham started, whatever has been said and done about the club, Birmingham have to be massive favourites going into this one. I mean, you were 2 leagues apart, 2 lost 4 months ago, 5 months ago. So I wouldn't let anyone tell you otherwise that this is a game Birmingham should win. Obviously, things don't always work out like that, and these games are closer than you think, and it's why we love the EFL, that you never really know what's going to happen on any given day. But yeah, I'd have Birmingham as the favourites for this one, and I think Wrexham should go to this game thinking if we can get a draw out of this, that's a very, very good result.
Nathan Salt and Rich Fay.
So a brief interlude from the podcast with Simeon to talk fantasy football. And because I'm just pushing the boat out this week, I decided to have a chat with the guys from the Fantasy EFL show. Partly because I wanted to flex the fact that I got 89 points for the week and was third in the RobRyanRed League for the game week. Before I get into kind of the specifics, manager of the week, how I got on, how Rich got on as well. We chat a bit to them, or I chat a bit to them about how things are going, Fantasy EFL show, and how their teams are getting on, and if they've used any Wrexham assets so far. Right, fantasy football. A few things that Rich hates more. He begrudgingly doing fantasy football because he doesn't like it. He's ran off to Greece because I've had the week of my life, basically. I thought I was going to be top of the league and nearly 100 points. I was absolutely buzzing. This trophy, as you all know by now, if you're watching, the RobRyanRed 10 champion. It's not even focused. Don't even need to be because it might be in my hands at the end of the season. It was looking ropey after the last week where I got 29 points. We'll read it in week, ladies and gents. 89 points this week. We're going to look at my team very, very shortly. With Rich running for the hills and Simeon not a big fantasy football fan. Why does not everyone love fantasy football like me? I've decided to get on Ben from the EFL Fantasy Show podcast. Ben, thank you for coming on. I guess, you know what, before we even get into my team, talk to me a bit about the podcast, because that is going to be a staple, or it should be, for people asking me, who should I pick? Which players should I get to try and climb the rankings?
Absolutely, mate. Well, first of all, thanks for having us on, Nathan. So myself and my co-host Jay, we're part of a Millwall podcast called That Millwall Podcast. We come up with the idea this year with fantasy football being new for obviously the EFL, big fantasy football fans. Obviously, most people play the Premier League version, right? So, yeah, we just saw that obviously we're Millwall fans and there was an opportunity there to try and play some fantasy football within the EFL. So, yeah, fairly new show. We're trying to do a bit of a sort of a game week a review on each game week. So the week just gone, look at our teams, what's worked well, what's not worked well in the case of Jay, or what's worked really well in my case. And then looking at the upcoming weeks and players to watch out for, some fixtures. We've already had a laugh, Nath, about a fixture I've picked in League One this week, so we won't go into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, just look at some players, some fixtures, and talk everything fantasy, talk for our teams, as I say. And then at the end of each show, we try and have a guest on from a different podcast or EFL Face. We've got the likes of Gab Sutton coming on
Nice.
throughout the season. So yeah, just try and have a chat to them about their team and everything EFL really.
Well, it was a lot of fun because I have been on, and I think it'll be out the same day this is out. So, or very, very soon. It should be the same day this is out. It's coming out on Thursday. And I had a lot of fun. We had a good little back and forth about a certain League One fixture. So do go and watch that because I learned a lot about players maybe I should be picking, and also learning about Jay's mistakes and what I should not be doing. Specifically, not changing away from the 2-2-2 formation. So let's have a look then, because we seem to be getting more and more players by the week. We've now got 418 players, I think it is, in the mini league fighting for that trophy. Let me get my team up then, because why would I not want to look at 89 points, ladies and gents? Now look, Will Mannion in goal at Charlton didn't quite pan out, that 4 points. I thought that might have gone a bit better. But I'll tell you what did pan out. Mickey Dimitru, crew, 16 points, 90 minutes played, 1 assist, 1 clean sheet, 14 clearances in a 1-0 win against Morecambe, 2 blocks, 2 tackles. Thank you very much. Theo Vassell, ex-Wrexham. Now, you know what was devastating about this is that he was on for about 9 points until Barrow, who didn't have a goalkeeper on the bench. And also funny that Rich did have Paul Farman, Barrow's goalkeeper, who was sent off in his team of the week, which is very typical Rich. But they did concede, and I think it was the 95th, 96th minute. So clean sheet gone. Theo Vassell got 3. Super Ryan Barnett in midfield got me 8 points with his assist for Elliot Lee's goal, the second against Shrewsbury. Luke O'Connell from Barnsley got 5. Jack Marriott with his goal, and I don't want to hear anyone saying that was an own goal. That was Jack Marriott's goal, got 7 points. David McGoldrick. If you saw my team from last week, you will remember that I actually had Jody Jones. But the beauty of EFL Fantasy Football, if you haven't already realised, you can change your team right up until kickoff. So if you're on the ball like I am, or some would say don't have a life like I do, apparently, but I did manage to change it in time. David McGoldrick, 28 points, Wrexham and Notts County. But I wasn't, unfortunately, but I know you're surprised, Ben, I wasn't actually manager of the week in the RobRyanRed League. That has gone to, let's see, it went to D Jones with Juan's Matter with You. I mean, I'm not sure fully on the name, but look, Arthur Okonkwo in goal, 111 points. Mickey Dimitru, Lloyd Jones, Elliot Lee, Davis Keeler-Dunn, David McGoldrick, Andy Cook. I mean, almost all the players have got double digits there. Wrexham, Barnsley. I mean, hard to argue with that. In fact, because Rich isn't here, Ben, I'm actually going to pull up your team because Rich is so low down, I would actually be scrolling all day. So we'll pull your team up. Why don't we? Genuinely, I'd be scrolling all day to find Rich's team. I don't even know. I know he had the goalkeeper. But Ben's team, where are you there? You are here. Greenies Lions. There you go, Ben.
Very imaginative name there, if anyone can see my surname.
What is it there? Ben Green, Greenies Lions. Yeah, look, Ben, I just said about, being on the ball and, being switched on to the deadline. Jody Jones, you didn't manage to swap him out in time. What's happened there, mate?
I'm going to blame my daughter. It was her birthday party.
It's not good enough from your daughter, mate. It's really poor, that.
I was really busy sorting her out, mate. But no, not good enough. Apparently, we even tweeted out from the pod Twitter account saying that Jody Jones wasn't playing, and I still completely ignored that. But yeah, look, I was pretty happy there, mate. 81 points with a player missing.
Yeah.
I think the key to having a good game week score is your 2 team picks, I think, Nathan. We were just chatting about it on our show, and I think it's really important to get your teams to be winning. A little bit disappointed there with Luke Molyneux in terms of the captain's pick, but yeah, look, I think we said earlier, with only 13 games, not bad. We've climbed the table.
You're 6th in that league. I'm 13th in that league. So look, and we spoke about my team coming up. But anyone who hasn't seen that show, I have mixed up. No Wrexham, which I know is slightly sacrilegious, but I don't want to put the jinx on anyone. I don't want to put the jinx. I don't want to put the jinx on anyone. And also, I really, really want this. And I just think Birmingham could be a nip and tuck game. So I like the feel of this in my hands. I know it seems ridiculous if I win the trophy that I'm trying to give away, but hey, the winner gets it, the victor gets it. So look, there's my team for game week 6. You've given some comments on yours, but what do you think generally? There's Davis Keeler-Dunn I really like, Poku I really like, Ehibati, and he did nothing against us, but was really good against Birmingham. A lot of League One, it's very League One heavy, that team. Only one Championship player in there, the rest League One. I am a bit biased to the league we're in, but any players bit worried about maybe Ampadu? Leeds Burnley, tricky one to call.
Yeah, tricky game, tricky fixture, something we've spoken about. What I want to ask you, man, we didn't actually do it on my show, on our show. Carl Wootton captain pick. Talk us through that.
Yes, look, I think I've gone with Louis Barry as a captain pick quite a few times, but if I look, he's averaging 8.3 points, mate, and I think it's not quite double digits, but I do like his points return. I know it was like an 8, a 9, a 5. He is 11. He is giving you points returns, and I just think he looks a much better player now. I was quite worried about him with his injury, but he's come back from that. He's got a new contract. I think the players around him really work that suit him now. You got Fevrier chipping in, you got Barry chipping in from wider areas, and you've just got Wootton as a big man. And Crawley, I just think, is one of those places where I remember when we went there, headers are key. So I'm banking on Kyle Wootton. And look, you've got to take a gamble sometimes. Probably my backup captaincy pick. I know it sounds weird because I've put Ehibati in as my vice, but I don't mind Davis Keeler-Dunn maybe as a pick away at Stevenage. I think he's a nice pick. I'm not so brave that I'm ever going to be captain in defenders. I know some people do it. I'm just not that bold. But yeah, Kyle Wootton. I'm one of them where I do make changes. So that's my team as of now. I know I did make changes last week, but as of right now, as of Wednesday night, really late Wednesday night as well, I'm pretty happy with that team.
Yeah, and as we said, mate, I was even making changes after sending my team to Jay on our show. So I will be making changes in mine, no doubt, as well. So yeah, I do like a fiddling around with the team, mate.
Well, go on then. Look, very finally, then very quickly, Millwall. I mean, obviously we don't play you in the Championship, but you have got Macaulay Langstaff, who was playing against us, was a nemesis for Paul Mullin. Obviously tricky. It's up 2 leagues, but we're all intrigued to see how he gets on. I mean, how's he got on first and foremost?
We haven't seen too much of him, to be fair, Nathan. Interesting. Well, even more interesting now that we signed Josh Coburn, deadline day signing from Middlesbrough on loan. We've signed a 19-year-old, completely unknown from the Serbian league, from Vojvodina. You can't get much more football manager than that for any football manager fans that are out there. Yeah, club record fee. So yeah, he's going to come in. I'd imagine he'll be going straight into the side. He has got a bit of an injury, but he just hasn't played, Nathan. I mean, I was one that was really excited about it. We've been absolutely screaming out for a goal scorer for Millwall for a long time, probably since the Steve Morrison, Lee Gregory days. We haven't had a prolific goal scorer since then. So we've been really excited to sign Langstaff. Few interesting comments from Neil Harris regarding him. So look, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. We currently play one up top. We've now got 3. If you throw Tom Bradshaw, who I know you guys were interested in, or rumours in the summer that we're going to be interested in. So we've got 4 strikers there. So it'll be interesting to see if a change of formation happens. But yeah, look, can't really comment, mate, because we haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah, look, very, very curious because Harris is, well, you might shoot me down here, but at Gillingham, definitely friends of mine. He wasn't known for bringing the best out of strikers. Those were very, very putrid figures out of some of them, particularly Macaulay Bonne I'm looking at. But look, fingers crossed it works for him. And yeah, Tom Bradshaw, one we thought was going to be coming through the door. But there you go. He ended up scoring, I think, just before the deadline, and we kind of knew then. He's not going to be. He's not going to be coming.
I'm for one, Nathan. I'm very pleased that he didn't leave. I'm a huge fan of Tom Bradshaw. I love him. He doesn't put up huge amounts of numbers in terms of goals, but he would run through a brick wall for the Millwall shirt and the Millwall badge. He's a player that I've loved having around the club. I get a lot of stick for that on my podcast because he doesn't score goals as a centre forward. But yeah, I was one who was happy that we didn't see him leave.
Well, look, to wrap it up, Fantasy EFL show. I had a much longer chat than I've had with Ben here, who's kind of giving up time late in the night. But we have a good long chat. It's a good laugh. Well worth a watch if you've got a spare hour and a half. And you'll learn a lot about fantasy football because I've even given some more maybe players to keep an eye on as the weeks go on. So yeah, Fantasy EFL show, all in the description and all on our socials, and you can check out Ben and Jay. Right, there we go. Fantasy football was a huge success for me and Rich. I did text him gloating. He doesn't care. He's in Greece having the time of his life, floating around on one of those donut I don't even know what you'd call him now, like a rubber ring, donut rubber ring. He's having a good time. I'm here with Simeon, enjoying my fantasy football flex. Simeon, thank you so much for joining. And also, we've got to give a shout out, if we haven't already, you are speaking to the messiah that is Phil Parkinson. So enjoy that, because when this comes out, it will be, a day or two away from the interview being released?
Yeah, keep an eye out for that one. It'll be out before the game on Monday on the Sky Sports website. There'll be some clip. I might run a bit of it later in the month as well, but there will be some of it for you to enjoy before the Birmingham Wrexham game. I am terrified now that I've been told he is like a mafia boss. So if you don't hear from me tomorrow, can you just check the bottom of the Thames to see if I'm there?
Well, I mean, Will. I think he was scared Will was going to injure our players, given he was getting Elliot Lee to do acrobatic volleys. So if you don't ask him to do anything acrobatic, I think he'll be able to sort of call off the dogs, basically. I think he'll be all right. But as always, this podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. Without them, we wouldn't be able to keep doing this podcast, all 189 episodes. The Stings, the music, Wrexham-based band Hypnotic. Simeon, all his links are in the description. Interview with Jack Marritt's already out, and there'll be more of that to come, as he mentioned. Phil Parkinson, Mr. Mafioso himself, coming up very, very soon. On to Monday. Rich will be back next week. We'll be able to unpack the biggest game of the season so far. Will Wrexham still be top? Will Wrexham still be unbeaten, or will the O have to go? See you after St Andrews.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Faye.